morning, everybody. Well, got a few things I have to do today. And one of the things that I have to do today is finish wiring up some landing lights. I decided I would put some landing lights on my airplane. And not that I need to fly around at night or anything, but they will make me more visible during the day whenever I come in on approach before landing. So, and you know, takeoff, so forth. So I decided I would put some landing lights on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wire the landing lights to my pant light switch. So when I hit my pant lights, the little pant lights will go on, and then I'll have two LEDs on my wing struts. I'll show you what they're going to look like in a second. The other thing that I had to do is I had to start to rig my rudder, so I pulled out all my cables for the rudder and the elevator and went along the boom tube and wire tied everything. So I did that real nice and neat, so that should turn out pretty good. And I had to come up with I don't know, sorry for the clearing my throat. We live in one of those areas, just allergies, crazy. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, my boom tube and my cable ties. So what I had to do was I had to stretch out my cables, the elevator cable and the rudder cables. And what I had to do was cable tie them along the boom tube, the lower boom tube. There's an upper boom, two upper boom tubes that go to the trailing edge of the wings, and then there's one lower boom tube that goes to the bottom of the plane. Sorry for clearing my throat all the time, but these allergies are killing me. Anyway, so what I did is the manual calls for the cable ties to be 5 inches or slightly less, but generally around 5 inches apart. So I went along and stretched them out and went along and put all my cable ties in, and I'll show you in a second. And what I'm going to probably do is right now I'm using my Nikon. I'm getting used to using my GoPro Hero 7 Black, and I'll do a segment with that too, about the new lights and the cables for the rudder and the elevator. But what I have to do is get those things done, and I'm going to proceed getting the saddles on the upper boom tubes as soon as they get here from Dennis, because yeah, I didn't tell you about that. There's another issue with the previous owner's work, and I didn't realize it until I began really looking at the manual while I'm putting all this thing back together, and I'm coming across little goofy things that the guy overlooked. I don't know. But, you know, I'm glad I'm finding them all out now. So I'll show you real quick. There's two saddles missing on the upper boom tubes that come from the tail that go to the trailing edge of the wing. Now there's a U bracket on each side, one for the right wing, one for the left wing. And then behind that is supposed to be a black saddle. There is none. And that's the way he put it together. And so when I took a picture of him on my iPhone and sent it off to Dennis Carley in Florida at the Aerolite manufacturing facility, he sent me almost an instant response. As soon as he saw that they were missing, he texted me back, "Those absolutely Positively have to be there. What's your address? So, Dennis is a really cool guy. One of these days when I get out to Florida, when I go to Sun and Fun, because I've never been to Sun and Fun or Oshkosh, and one of these days I'm going to get to both of them. But when I get out to Florida and I get out to DeLand, where his home base is, I got to go shake the man's hand because he has been one heck of a manufacturer who has been reachable. And how many manufacturers do you know that are going to personally talk to people that buy their stuff? Not too many, you know. Mostly it's an underling or some agent that they have working for them. But Dennis is super. I mean, he's what I call him the man, DAMAN, the man. And I always thank him because he does not have to take the time out of his day to answer goofy questions, but I think he's the kind of guy that wants to make sure that all of his airplanes fly and all of his pilots are safe. And that's what I'm getting out of him. He's almost treating me like family. And real briefly, I'll tell you that when I bought the plane from the other guy, I got a hold of Dennis Carley at Aerolite, and I asked him if it was okay if I tapped him, you know, and asked him questions and stuff, and become part of the family pretty much. And he absolutely said, for sure. But yeah, I don't want to be long-winded and sloppy, but he's a good guy. So you can't go wrong when you buy an Aerolite 103. And real briefly, I'll tell you, he sells Quicksilvers and he also sells Challengers. So all three of those aircraft he puts together. So I'm just telling you right now, if you want to buy one of those three aircraft, the Quicksilver or the Aerolite 103 or the Challenger, you can't go wrong with Dennis Carley. Dennis Carley is a really good guy. Now, I don't know much about his distributors, but, and I know because he's expanding, he's getting distributors throughout the nation. And I think he's even got a distributor back in Europe. I'm not sure yet, but I'm pretty sure he does. And I think they're called Aerolite 120s or something, because they're one, our 103, our Part 103 is like their 120. And I'm pretty sure he's got a distributor back there too. So I'm making this long-winded. I'm going to shut up and I'll show you what I have done. And I have not completed the landing lights on my struts, but I'm almost done with the rudder and the elevator cables, setting them up and everything. So I'm going to pause this and then I will restart it and I'll show you what I've done. Okay, this is the the right side LED. As you can see, there's 6 LEDs in that bad boy. And I have one on the other side, on the left side, the left lift strut. And I've also put, I don't know how well you can see it, but I've put a green light there, and it says landing lights under it. So when I turn it on, it will activate. I'll turn it on temporarily. Sorry about reaching and shaking you all over the place. Okay, there's the light, and one of my pant lights is lit up, and the other one's going. So let me shut that off. But yeah, that's so far what I've got. You can see them right now. I've got 2 landing lights, and I have to just finish tying them into my power, and that'll be done. Then all I got to do is flick that on when I'm just, prior to takeoff, and flip it on when I'm in the pattern and, on final, and then I'll have those on so people on the ground can see me coming in. Now, let me take you around to, let's see, which way do I want to go? I'll show you what I've done with the rudder and the elevator cable. So the manual calls for the rudder and elevator cable. The rudder is the black one. Oh, I'm sorry, the rudder is the clear one going straight back. And the black one going up along the horizontal stabilizer, that's for the rudder. Now let me show you, I'll get closer. The manual calls for approximately an 8 o'clock and a 2 o'clock on the other side. 8 o'clock and 2 o'clock. 8 o'clock and 5 o'clock, I think it is. Or 4 o'clock, something like that. But yeah, they have to be in a certain orientation. And then the rudder cable has to be over the aileron, elevator cable. I'll get it out. God. Anyways, and they have to be about 5 inches apart. So that's about what I've done. I've done a little less than 5 inches, but that's the way that the manual calls for it. And I remember when I first got the airplane, I took a picture and Dennis told me they were wrong and had to be done a different way. So I finally did it the right way. So they're all set up and nice and neat, and they're even now. They were uneven. I'll show you the rudder cables. I don't know if you can see them. You can see this white sleeve. The white sleeve, one of the white sleeves was way back here. The other white sleeve was there. So I had to loosen all those cable ties so that I could pull the slack out and get them to even out again. So, and then I got the turnbuckle safety wired, and that's what it calls for. So now I think there's, you know, a fair amount of tension on there, but they're pretty good. And what I had to do in order to get this thing done was I had to come up with a way to hold my rudder in place. So that's my makeshift rudder lock that, I don't know if you can see it, but it's pretty straight. So sorry about any glare, but that's my makeshift rudder lock. And I'll bring you back around the front of the plane and I'll show you. I had a piece of angled aluminum, so I used it to keep the rudder pedals fairly straight. So as you can see, and I just clamped them. So yeah, I think there's a special tool Dennis manufactures, and it actually clamps on to this lower tube, the square tube. But rather than going out there and purchasing it, I came up with a makeshift deal. So in any case, I'm gonna shut up and I'm gonna let you guys go. I really appreciate you guys watching my videos. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't even be doing this stuff. So thank you very much for sharing, for liking and subscribing, and sending out love, you know, especially those of you that have expressed concerns for my wife and her issue. And if you've been watching for any length of time, you know what I'm talking about. So I'm not going to get into it. But thanks all for watching. I'm going to let you go for now, and we'll be back.